Hello and welcome to another video lesson. Today I want to show you a little bit about the cardiovascular system. So in this video, I'll be giving the overview of the cardiovascular system as well as some practice questions that you would see on various exams. So let's look at the overview. So blood is pumped from the heart around the body through a network of blood vessels, collectively referred to as the cardiovascular system. So what is this made up of? So the cardiovascular system is made up of what we call arteries, capillaries, and veins. So you have arteries, capillaries, and veins. So as you can see in on this diagram, the arteries are the red vessels that you see here. Okay, these are the arteries. And then what we call the arteriole. Arteriole is a smaller branch of the artery, right? And then that breaks down into smaller network of blood vessels here. And that's what we call the capillaries. So these are capillaries, small vessels around here. All right. So the capillaries, that's where you have the exchange of materials from the body, from the cells into the blood, right? So oxygen, you can see oxygen leaving over here and nutrients going to the cells right there. Okay. And then we get closer to the other end of the arteries where it connects to the vein, right? The arteries, the capillaries come together and they form what we call venules. Venules are like small veins, right? As we see here. So the blue part here represents the vein and then the venules. Okay, the vein carries deoxygenated blood, right? What blood that's not rich in oxygen, or blood that is deficient in oxygen. All right. Okay. So again, when we go back to capillaries, you see towards the end around here, where it joins the venules, you have waste products getting into the blood at that level. So oxygen and other waste products from the cell. Sorry, carbon dioxide and other waste products from the cell enter into the capillaries here. Okay. So let's look at a little bit more of the blood vessels. So the arteries transport oxygen-rich blood from the heart to all parts of the body, except the pulmonary artery. We'll be talking about the pulmonary artery soon. All right, so the pulmonary artery connects the right side of the heart to the lung, and it carries deoxygenated blood. So it's an exception to what the arteries do. So all arteries transport oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. This is good for multiple choice questions or any other exams you take. So arteries carry blood to tissues. Okay, that's what you have to note. Now the arteries get smaller as they get further away from the heart, and they become the arterioles, as I showed you on the diagram. Okay. So the capillaries are the smallest of blood vessels, as I said. Yeah. They connect the smallest arteries, called arterioles, to the smallest veins, which we call the venules. The venules. Okay. So this is where oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, and waste products are exchanged. So the exchange of waste products, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nutrients occur at the level of the capillaries, right? So capillaries usually have like small holes in them, so substances can easily diffuse through them into the cell. Then the veins. The veins carry deoxygenated blood. That means lacking in oxygen back to the heart, except the pulmonary vein. So the pulmonary vein is an exception because the pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lung to the left side of the heart. We'll be talking about that shortly. Okay. So that's an exception. Again, this is good for multiple choice question. So veins carry deoxygenated blood, except the pulmonary vein, which carries oxygenated blood. So veins usually carry blood away from tissues. Okay, that they carry blood away from tissues. So let's look at the heart. So this is a cross section of the heart. All right, so it's good to know. Good to know some of the various parts of the heart. Okay. So if you cut across the heart, this is what you see. Okay. So see if you can remember what the various parts represent. Good. So what is the part labeled 1 called? The part labeled 1, what is it called? So if you said the right atrium, then you are correct. Give yourself 100 points. So the right atrium is what is shown here. That's the part that receives deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body. What's the part labeled 2 called? If you said the right ventricle, you're correct. Give yourself a pat on the back. So the blood flows into the right ventricle. You know, that's deoxygenated blood flows through the right ventricle, through this valve here called the tricuspid valve, right? The tricuspid valve around here has 3 leaflets or cusp. That's what we call tricuspid valve. Okay. What's the part labeled 3 called? Pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery. So the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood to the lung. So as you can see the arrow, this is going to go to the lung. Okay. What's the part labeled 4 called? That's the left atrium. The left atrium. So the left atrium receives blood from the lung. All right. So that's going to receive oxygenated blood that comes from the lung. What's the part labeled 5? Right, that's the left ventricle. The left ventricle. So the left ventricle receives the oxygenated blood from the left atrium, right? Now, as you can see the arrow here. Okay. And the valve over here is the bicuspid valve, or the mitral valve. Okay, mitral valve. Okay. So if you've forgotten that, we can put this there. That is the mitral or bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve. Okay. Because it's made up of two cusp or leaflets. So what's the function of the valve? The valve is supposed to prevent backflow of blood into the atrium over here. Okay, there's a function here. Whilst if we come here, this is a tricuspid. So let's just put this there and then we can remember. Let's label that. This is the tricuspid valve. Tri means three, as I said. Okay, so that is going to prevent backflow of blood into the right atrium. Okay. And then the part label 6, that is the famous aorta, all right, the arch of the aorta, the biggest artery in the body. So the arch of the aorta. Okay, so the aorta is going to go all the way from there. It's going to go down to different parts of the body. And there was a part labeled 7. All right, that's a pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein. Okay, so as you said, the pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lung to the left side of the heart into the, that means it goes into the left atrium. Great. So now you know the different parts of the heart. So let's look at the movement of blood through the heart. How does the blood flow through the heart? Okay. So blood from the muscles and organs of your body enters the right side of the heart into the right atrium, right, into the right atrium. Okay. It is then pumped into the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. From there, the heart pumps the blood to the lungs through the pulmonary arteries, where it takes up oxygen and gets rid of carbon dioxide it has been carrying. This oxygen-rich blood then enters the left atrium via the pulmonary vein. It is then pumped into the left ventricle through the bicuspid or the mitral valve. From there, it is pumped into the aorta, the largest blood vessel in the body, to all parts of the body, including the heart itself. Okay. So that's a summary of how the blood flows through the body. I'm going to give you a quick diagram, schematic representation soon to summarize it. Okay. So what is blood pressure? So blood pressure is a measurement of the pressure within the arteries. The blood pressure depends on these factors. 1, the heart's pumping actions. 2, the size and stretchiness of your blood vessels, how much your blood vessels can stretch, the compliance, And then thirdly, the thickness of the blood vessel itself. So these are the 3 things that affect the blood pressure. The heart pumping actions, right? How hard the heart can pump, how strong it can pump. 2, the size of the blood vessels, and then how the degree of stretch, for the stretchiness of the blood vessel. And then thirdly, the thickness of the blood vessel. How thick is it? All right. All this will affect the pressure within the blood, right? So basically, that is a quick overview of how of the cardiovascular system. Later on we'll look at each vessel into detail. The structure of each of the vessels. But for those taking an exam, you just have to know a quick overview like this. Okay. All right, great. So let's summarize this in a diagram form. I want to draw a diagram for you to see. Right. So as I said, let's draw the lung here. This is a schematic diagram, how you can remember the circulation. So this will be the lung. Okay. So from the lung, I'm going to draw another diagram here. This will represent the heart. All right. I'm representing the heart. I'm going to use a box and divide into 4 parts because the heart has 4 chambers. Okay. So as I said, this will be the left atrium, right? This is the left ventricle, all right? This is the right atrium, and this is the right ventricle. Okay. So you can use this box to represent that. And then have your bicuspid valve here. And then you have the tricuspid valve there. Okay. So you're going to have blood coming from different parts of the body. So let's draw this like this. I like to draw it like this. And then I'll break down to different capillaries here. I'll draw another line here, like that vessel coming down, and then this will go to the right, like this. Then I'll draw a vessel going from here to the lung. And then from here, there. And from here, down there, like this. Okay, good. So what I've drawn here, this will be the superior, what we call the superior vena cava. Vena cava. From here, this will be what we call the inferior vena cava. This will be the aorta. This will be the pulmonary vein. And then this is the pulmonary artery. So let's call this the pulmonary artery. Okay, good. So quickly, as I said, the blood flows from different parts of the body, that's the deoxygenated blood, different parts of the body through the inferior vena cava gets into the right atrium. From the right atrium, it goes through the tricuspid valve, and then the ventricle pumps the blood through the pulmonary artery, and then the pulmonary artery takes the blood to the lungs. So in the lung, oxygen is added to it, right? So once oxygen is added to the blood, it becomes oxygenated, and then the blood is pumped through the pulmonary vein. So now we have oxygenated blood being pumped through the pulmonary vein to the left atrium. And then the left atrium pumps the blood through the bicuspid valve, and then from the through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, the blood is pumped through the aorta all the way to different parts of the body, right? So this is a quick overview of how the circulation occurs. So the inferior vena cava brings blood from the lower part of the body, right? Deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body. While the superior vena cava brings blood from the upper part of the body into the right atrium. So on the right side, everything here, whatever you have here, these are all deoxygenated blood, okay? Deoxygenated blood here. Blood here is deoxygenated blood. Okay, so all this deoxygenated blood. Then on the left side here, that's where you have the oxygenated blood, blood with oxygen. So all here will be oxygenated blood. Okay. Oxygenated blood. Right. So this is a diagram that can help you easily when you're studying the cardiovascular system. Okay, good. So let me just quickly stimulate your brains a little bit, especially if you're going to do pathophysiology and nursing, medicine, and so on. Right. So assuming that somebody has what we call left heart failure, if the left heart fails to pump blood out, okay, let's say left ventricle fails to pump blood out, what's going to happen? What is going to happen is that there'll be backflow, okay, or bad luck of the blood, like what we call the pooling of blood backwards. So blood is coming in, right here, but the left ventricle cannot pump out the blood. So the blood is going to pool backwards like this, and then into the lungs, right? So there'll be fluid in the lung, and that's what we call pulmonary edema, all right? So if you study your clinicals, the person comes with, let's say, this fluid, you see fluid in the lungs. The person is coughing, what we call pink frothy sputum. The sputum that comes as frothy and it's pinkish, all right? It means the person is having a problem with the left side of the heart, okay? If the problem is not treated, then the blood keeps pulling backwards and backwards and backwards, right? Through the pulmonary artery, it pulls backwards. And eventually, it's going to affect the right side of the heart, which can also fail if the left side is not, if the left ventricle failure is not treated, right? So pulling of blood will occur and continue, backwards, backwards, backwards. Then eventually, you have fluid in the lower part of the, like in the different parts of the lower parts of the body, like the abdomen, the legs, and so on. Okay, usually the legs swells up, and that's called pedal edema. Pedal edema, swelling of fluid in the tissues of the leg. Okay, if you see that the person is having failure of the right side of the heart. Okay, the heart right side is filled, so the blood coming in cannot be pumped out. Okay, so you can have the left side failing and the right side also failing at the same time, or you can have just one section of the heart failing, right? So this is just a quick idea of how you can use this diagram. Okay, so to round up, let me say that if you see just fluid in the lower part of the body, like in the extremities, so swollen legs, repeat edema, and there's fluid in the abdomen, right? If you see only that, that means that this person is having a problem with the right side, because it's a right heart failure, okay? Because the left side is not involved. Once there's no fluid in the lung, it means that left side is not affected, all right? So you can predict so many things using this diagram. I hope you enjoyed watching my video. Expect more soon. Bye-bye.